Welcome to this April 13th, 2020 City Council meeting, our first full Monday night virtual meeting. And thank you all for joining us in this new remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's stay home, stay safe order. This format enables a city council to meet, hear from the community, and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. Following our first couple of items tonight, there will be a public forum followed by 2 public hearings. There are a couple of housekeeping announcements and instructions related to the meeting format that I need to take care of first. Thank you for your patience while I work my way through them. First of all, anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling in to one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the Public Webcasts and Meeting Materials webpage. For those who join the meeting via computer, device, or phone, your microphone, webcam, and phone are automatically muted when you enter the meeting as an attendee. If you wish to participate during the public forum portion of the meeting and haven't already done so, please raise your virtual hand now to join the speaker's queue in one of 2 ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the blue hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. We will continue accepting raised hands until 7:35. The meeting moderator will unraise or disallow any requests to speak that are made after the deadline. When the public forum begins, our meeting moderator will announce the next 2 speakers at a time. When it is your turn to speak, the moderator will announce your name and unmute your microphone. You will have 2 minutes to speak. On tonight's agenda, we also have 2 public hearings, which are an opportunity for the public to provide testimony specifically related to 2 ordinances. For those wishing to testify at one of these public hearings, please wait to raise your virtual hand until after the conclusion of the public forum. In my introductory remarks for each public hearing, I will announce that it is time to raise your hand if you wish to speak. Requests will be accepted until the first person to testify begins speaking. The format will be the same for providing testimony as the public forum, except you will have 3 minutes to speak. Finally, I want to thank everyone for their patience, flexibility, and good humor as we work through any kinks of this format that is very new to most of us. As always, feel free to contact any one of us individually or together via email or voicemail if there is testimony you were not able to provide or wish to get to us in a different manner. So, to council, our first order of business is items of interest and committee reports. Does anyone have something they wish to share in this first item? Councilor Taylor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think I'm unmuted. Okay. Lane Regional Air Protection Agency did have a meeting this same way. And two main things. We decided on a committee to, Merlin Huff is retiring, so we're looking for a new director. And we have a committee to look for a firm to recruit, and I'm on the committee. Then the other thing is the council majority rescinded the burning ban, which was announced recently. I don't know if you're all aware of that or not. There was a burning ban announced in the interest of health, and the majority of the board thought that this was a hardship for rural people. So the majority of the board voted to rescind the ban. I did vote against that, and so did another person. So I wanted to make it clear that was not a unanimous decision. Also, there were a few people absent from the meeting, but the burning ban was rescinded. And that's, well, I already said at the other meeting somewhat, but I've heard from people who live near Amazon Park who are really unhappy about having the park turned into a campground. And I know that some people in other places are unhappy too. But as I still think we should have a shelter where people can go. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Evans.
Just to
Yes,
clarify, that was the board, not the council. El Rapa board, not the council.
Right.
What?
Councilor Evans.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, a couple of things real quick. One is that Councilor Taylor and I attended the National League of Cities meeting in Washington, D.C. And we're working on our priorities in relationship to investments in transportation, broadband, and water infrastructure. And we're also grappling with the housing crisis and affordability. And then there's another thing that I just lost from the tip of my tongue. But one last thing, and that is my daughter is getting a dog tomorrow. And, Councilor Taylor will commiserate with me that, me being a cat guy, yeah, I've just got to figure out how to love a dog. So, all right, thanks.
Congratulations.
I have to speak.
Okay.
Just one word, just a minute.
Okay, one word.
You can't help loving a dog, Greg. That's all.
Fair enough. Councilor Tyret.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you'll figure it out, Councilor Evans. I have faith in you. So I just wanted to offer, I serve and chair the Lane Act, the Area Commission on Transportation, and we chose to cancel our April meeting rather than try to conduct it in a format like this. We have, it's quite a huge commission, and not everyone probably has great Wi-Fi, but so we're not sure what we'll do for our May meeting. The steering committee will meet in a week or so, and we'll figure that out. But the Human Services Commission, on which I serve, is planning to hold their scheduled meeting next Monday from 12:15 to 1:30 using a virtual format. So just letting folks know that committee will go forward, that committee does take public comment and has social service providers who attend. So I am assuming that Lane County staff, which manages that commission, will be making provisions so folks can participate beyond just the commission members.
Okay, great. Councilor Ye.
Thank you. I had two groups to report back on. The Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission, we have met via virtually. We're taking a second look at our budget. We were planning on a 2% increase in fees, but the commission is committed to not doing that now. We've directed staff to look at a 0% increased budget, and because we recognize that our ratepayers have a lot of economic stresses right now, and if we can try to be a part of that solution, we'd like to be. The Police Commission has decided to cancel several of their meetings, but the commission is still in contact, and there is an email if there is something you would like the commission to know about. The email address is ceepdcommission@ci.eugene.or.us. So that's City of Eugene CEEPD Commission. So that is still being checked and still being addressed. So please send any comments or anything you want to share with the commission to that.
Councilor Semple.
Thank you. Pretty short because everybody's practicing social distancing and we're not all Zooming yet. Human Rights Commission, Sustainability Commission, and Mackenzie Watershed Council all regretfully did not meet this month. Maybe some will be able to meet next month with the Zoom, and maybe not, but they're all still working and thinking. So thank you.
That's great. Anybody else? I have just a quick thing that is related actually to our earlier conversation at the 5:30 meeting, which is that I've been meeting with two different groups of business folks through Zoom meetings. One began through the Eugene Wake Up crew, mostly breweries and folks downtown, and I now have another group of downtown retailers. So we are talking about how they navigate the various loan programs, what are the issues they're facing, and tomorrow, and Congressman DeFazio was part of the meeting on Thursday, so we're really trying to help just make sure we're hearing from those local business people, and I'm really grateful to hear the chamber stepping up, and we'll provide that kind of structure. And tomorrow, in my role in the climate mayors, I will be on a call with the climate mayors with Congressman DeFazio, and you all may know, but the public may not know, that he has a big infrastructure package that he's been assembling for a long time, and now as chair of the Transportation Infrastructure can bring that to the table. It's called Moving Forward. So we will be talking tomorrow about how we align that infrastructure package with our climate goals. And so as we're thinking moving forward on our own climate goals, there may be opportunities that come through federal legislation, really championed by Congressman DeFazio, and I'm hoping that we'll bring a lot of other mayors from across the country on board with some of that work. So that's the sort of the big picture pieces. Okay, with that, if that's the end of comment, Manager, did you need to chime in on items of interest today? No. Okay, got it. All right, so next item is the consent calendar.
I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second?
Any discussion, changes? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
And raise your hands, actually. Let's
Mayor,
see.
actually, I wanted to pull item.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
I couldn't.
So is it too late to do? Can we go ahead and pull was item C? Is it too late? Okay.
It's not too late.
Okay. All right. So let's approve. So
I'll start over.
thank you. That would be great.
I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1 with the exception of item C.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Greg 8. Got it. Thank you so much. Okay. You want to address item C?
Yeah, I think this is a very cool thing, but I wasn't quite sure after reading the AIS about it. If there's someone on staff that could address this issue, I asked for that earlier, that could talk about what this is and why it has a benefit.
Yeah, sure thing. We have Twyla Miller in the panelist group to answer that.
Good evening. This is Twyla Miller, the finance director, and I'm going to look to the moderator. We actually have Greg from ORIC Hughes Bond Council for this project, and I believe he's going to speak to your question.
Yeah, this is Greg Blond. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. As Twyla said, I'm an attorney with ORIC Harrington and Sutcliffe, and we are bond counsel to the Hospital Facility Authority that previously issued bonds on behalf of Cascade Manor, which is the source of the action being asked for this evening. And by way of background, as many of you know, nonprofit corporations like Cascade Manor can borrow on a tax-exempt basis, much in the same way that cities and counties and other municipalities can borrow on a tax-exempt basis. But nonprofit corporations are subject to some additional requirements set forth in the federal tax code that don't apply to cities and counties. And one of those requirements is that before bonds are issued, a public hearing, a so-called TEFRA hearing, and that just stands for TEFRA, the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act. There's a requirement that a TEFRA hearing be held prior to the bonds being issued, and that the elected officials of the jurisdiction in which the project is located must approve the bonds. And so in connection with Cascade Manor's prior issuance of bonds, public hearings were held, and the city approved the issuance of those bonds, most recently in 2014. And in 2014, bonds were issued, and a portion of those bonds were used to purchase furniture, fixtures, and equipment for Cascade Manor. So fast forward to 2020, and Cascade Manor, some of that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
What? Okay, sorry. So fast forward to 2020. So some of that furniture.
Greg, mute.
Excuse me. Yeah, there we go.
Can,
Sorry, Greg, carry on. We just had a question there.
oh, no problem. So in fast forward to 2020, some of that furniture, fixtures, and equipment that was financed back in 2014 still has useful life on it, but Cascade Manor would like to sell it. And whenever bond finance assets are sold in that manner, the proceeds of the sale, for reasons embedded in tax law, are traced back to the original issuance of the bonds. So as you probably know, the world of tax law doesn't always coincide with the real world. So in the tax world, even though bonds aren't being reissued, in tax law, under tax law, they are considered reissued to the extent these assets are sold. So Cascade Manor anticipates that they're going to sell some of these bond financed assets, and that they think the proceeds of that sale won't exceed $5 million. And under tax law, $5 million worth of those bonds will be considered reissued, even though they're not actually being reissued. But because they are considered reissued for tax law, we have to go back to those same requirements that I spoke to earlier, which is to hold a public hearing, and then for the city to consider giving approval. And so that's why this action is being requested this evening, and the public hearing has already been held. And so this would be the second step, which is for the city to give approval.
And Mayor, if I could jump in just real quick, my office did take a look at these documents, Councilor Zelenka, and often one of the questions that is asked is whether there's any revenues involved from the city, and there's no revenue, they're not backed by revenues of the city. So that's usually the part that we often focus on. So we did review the documents.
Good, thank you for that.
Okay, can we put a motion on the table for item C of the consent calendar? Oh, you're still on
You're
mute.
muted, Emily.
I need a mouse. This finger pad doesn't get over there. I move to approve consent calendar 1, item C.
Second.
All in favor? Please raise your hand. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you so much. That completes that order of business. And now we are ready for the much awaited public forum, virtual public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. And we do have 2 public hearings. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When it is your turn and your microphone has been unmuted, please state your name clearly, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known, before beginning your comments. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of the 2 minutes. There's the big timer. When your time has concluded, the moderator will mute your microphone and move on to the next speaker. She probably will let you finish your sentence, but you can't do another paragraph. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2-minute mark. And I'm understanding we just have half a dozen speakers. So now I think it's up to the moderator, Elena, to give us names.
Thank you. Yep, we only have 6 speakers signed up to speak tonight at the forum. And the first speaker is going to be Tim Kovash, followed by Lynn Woodrich. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Tim now.
Is this working?
It is.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tim Kovash, Eugene resident from Ward 3. Hello again. We apologize for having to bring up the STR topic in the midst of a current COVID crisis, but it has come to our attention that city staff is planning to continue with the same STR ad hoc committee and has scheduled a meeting for April 23rd. It is deeply concerning that the ad hoc committee would meet and make any recommendations to the council during a state of global emergency. Furthermore, using city employee time and resources during the pandemic and financial crisis appears unnecessary and insensitive. As we are all aware, the shelter-in-place orders have decimated the travel industry, including STRs, which are currently suffering unprecedented vacancies and losses. Hundreds of local businesses, including ours, may never return to the Eugene business landscape. We respectfully ask that you abandon this flawed and biased ad hoc committee and table the STR issue until a time when we are not actively engaged in a crisis. Even a step like requiring registration will consume staff time and expenses that could surely be spent on other more pressing city concerns than regulating short-term rentals. When the economic uncertainty settles, we may end up in a depression and many or most STRs may not have enough business to continue operating. As is the case with others around the world, we are facing concerns for our lives and health, as well as the possible loss of our jobs and businesses, including the investments we made in them. Right now is a really tough time for all of us. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Lynn Woodrich, followed by Joshua. I am trying to unmute Lynn, and it is not working.
Please stand by.
I think the person on the other side of the computer has to allow me to unmute them, and I don't know if she's not at her computer or her speakers are not working. For the moment, I'm going to move past her and go along to Joshua.
Perfect.
I'm unmuted now.
There's Lynn. Okay.
Yeah, here I am. So sorry that I had my my words over the top. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, my name is Lynn Woodrich. Or are you going to start? Okay, my name is Lynn Woodrich, and I'm the Active Bethel Citizens co-chair, living in Ward 6 with my 91-year-old dad, and I'm a homeowner in the Bethel portion of Ward 8. I'm speaking as a resident and co-captain of Burnson Road Neighborhood Watch. I'm not speaking for the ABC board. I just learned this morning from Brian Richardson with the city that if I looked out my window, I would see the fencing going up for the next Whitebird homeless shelter. My breakfast room looks into Peterson Barn Park. The trucks had pulled in, but no work had begun. I called to talk with Peter Chavanez, the manager at Peterson Barn, to express my concerns. He wasn't there, so talked with Billy. He said he'd heard concerns and would pass mine on. I called Brian back too. It was too late. We had no warning. It was a done deal. The Amazon and Hilliard shelters were full, so it feels like Bethel has been dumped on again. I understand that the most vulnerable people need to have a safe place to shelter in place, but it didn't have to be Bethel. We have absorbed the Highway 99 corridor sponsors, Lindholm Centers, and the Dusk to Dawn tent city already. The parking lots at Peterson Barn aren't large. There's a huge parking lot at River Road Parks and Recreation, and I'm sure other neighborhoods have parking lots where this could have been built. What type of security will the site hosts carry it forward be using? Will they be locking the gates at night? What can the Bethel community do to help this go smoothly? When will the shelters be dismantled? As soon as COVID-19 is under control, or when Peterson Barn opens again?
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Joshua, followed by Richard Self.
Hi, Joshua Korn, resident of South Eugene, and I'm coming back to this topic of 5G, and wanted to bring to your attention an article that Martin Paul recently published, which has to do with studies that have been done about virology and spreading viruses quicker by VGCC activation. This is the voltage gated calcium channel activation, which I've spoken to y'all before about. But he brings this up in light of this pandemic and points to some specific studies, and I can share this with you, but I'm bringing this back to your attention because this is especially important right now as the telecoms are doing everything. It seems the telecoms are doing everything they can to spread this technology while no one's paying attention. And I also want to bring to your attention that localities can actually enjoy quiet enjoyment of the streets and police this simply by passing an ordinance that relates to effective radiated power from these wireless transmission facilities. And really what it comes down to is that these telecoms are actually putting up full power wireless transmitting facilities like macro cells and calling them microcells. And you can tell that by doing simple math on the effective radiated power. So I can share this information with you too. So please follow up by email.
Thank you. Next up, we have Richard Self, followed by Ed Farron.
Okay, is this working?
Yes.
Perfect. Last time I messed it up. Thank you for this opportunity. I would just like to take this opportunity to say I appreciate the unique positions this crisis has placed you all in. We're all in uncharted territory, so I'm heartened to hear my elected officials thinking out of the box. Now, with the county's quick action to open the respite shelters and the purchase of the VA clinic on River Road, I would submit following that path with assistance with maybe helping them obtain hotel accommodations for some unhoused people that may have tested positive and so forth and so on, and that kind of thing. As the mayor advised during your work session, we have been wrestling for years with sanctioned camping and emergency shelter, including respite in lieu of permanent housing, and it took this emergency to make some of this manifest. So in future considerations of the unhoused, I say we've come a long way in a very short time, and when this is over, we should not revert back to archaic ways. There's still Lori Haber's recommendations to possibly have a future work session on as well. Anyway, I appreciate the position all of this has put you guys in, and I say keep thinking out of the box And thanks for stepping up when we needed this. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ed Aaron, followed by Catherine.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Ed Farron. I live in Ward 6 in the Bethel community. One of the biggest concerns that people talk about is the lack of infrastructure in the community, and specifically the lack of sidewalks, bike lanes, and bike paths in the majority of neighborhoods, and not enough street lights and minimal access to public transportation. Because of the absence of sidewalks, bike lanes, and street lights, residents have a high concern for their safety when using non-vehicle transportation. And the Beyond Toxic survey reported that 40 to 45% of Bethel residents do not feel safe walking alone in their neighborhood, compared to 12% of residents in the rest of Eugene. And as Envision Eugene includes Moving Ahead, a major transit project for the city, and identifies Highway 99 as a key corridor for investment, I advocate for the city council to prioritize transit and infrastructure investment in the Bethel area, as our community is sorely behind the rest of Eugene. The Bethel neighborhoods needs to be next in line to receive Envision Eugene planning. Our last neighborhood plan was created in 1982. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, our last speaker is Catherine.
Hello. How are you all this evening? My name is Catherine Dunn. I'm with Ward 5, and I am also going to be talking about the short-term rental ad hoc committee. I understand that the meeting has been reconvened starting next week on April 23rd via a Zoom meeting. And the purpose of that meeting, I understand, is to discuss a draft of a proposal that will require that short-term rentals be licensed and that a local host be available. The proposal is actually being drafted by the city and will be sent out a week in advance of that meeting. So first, I was surprised to see that the meeting is continuing on. The ad hoc committee is actually continuing on because of comments that have been at the council meetings in the past, especially after the last ad hoc committee meeting. The ad hoc committee just was not assembled properly, and the meetings have not been conducted in a reasonable manner. There's been no facts, no figures, no real discussion among members. The first meeting was a wash. The second meeting, all they did was put up opinions up on a piece of paper on the wall. Again, no real discussion among the members, and definitely no facts have been presented or discussed. So I'm surprised that it's continuing on. I'm also surprised that the city's actually drafting the proposal. I just feel like we need to take a step back. If you guys want to put another ad hoc committee in place after this is all over, after the coronavirus situation is over, let's do that. Registration wouldn't be bad. Licensing, no, I would not support licensing. But registration, we've been registered before. Probably I already am registered because I used to pay my own taxes directly to the city. And so if you want to gather facts, maybe that would be an approach to take. But other than that, I mean, the short-term rental industry is suffering right now, and a lot of people are not considering keeping their short-term rentals on the market. They'll convert them back to long-term rentals, it looks like. A lot of them will. Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm understanding that ends the testimony for the public forum. I have Councilor Clark wanting to comment, so I'll open it up to you, Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say two quick things other than thank you everybody who participated in the first Zoom public forum. That was fun. City Manager, my understanding after the last public forum or the last conversation we had around short-term rentals was that there was at least going to be consideration for reconstituting the ad hoc committee. My recollection of the conversation of who were members of that committee certainly wasn't what I was hoping when I asked for such a committee to exist and advise. And I'm hopeful that that we still have that opportunity, much less why they would meet again before being reconstituted. And number two, if and when we get anything before council on this, I certainly will want to make a motion to table it until such a time as we get closer to recovery. I think the testimony we heard is exactly right. First of all, there's not many people staying in them right now, but those as ways to for people to earn extra income are in real jeopardy as we move forward. So, Manager, could you speak to the committee structure and committee's meeting schedule?
Yes, I can definitely do that. Thank you. So after that last council meeting, I went back and I rewatched the video and reread the motion, reread the communications I had sent to the council about this committee, because I thought that I had understood it based on the context of the meeting, and what we had talked about was that it was supposed to be a kind of a equal participation. You wanted to hear from the short-term rental owners, but that we were supposed to be going and getting information from both. So I went back and watched it. I touched base back with Claire and said, I can't believe that I missed this, because if you really just read the words of the motion suggest what you're saying, which is we're supposed to go out and ask the short-term rental owners what they think. My recommendation was that we not necessarily disband the committee, because we have a lot of short-term rental owners on that committee, but instead we could, based on what we've been listening to and what we're learning, we could propose a set of recommendations. This is pretty much exactly what we were supposed to do, is like, hey, here's some different ideas. How will this affect the short-term rentals? They can still give us that input. It's a department advisory committee. It's not a council advisory committee. They can give that. And then based on all of that, I can make a recommendation to you that says, here's the set of proposed regulations, and here's what we've heard from the short-term rental owners. I can also say, here's what we've heard from other advocates and neighborhood people, and you can weigh all of that into your decision-making as you want to. And at any time, if you want to table this, you can. I know earlier tonight, you guys talked about what your priorities are. I know one of you thinks that this is a really high priority and should get moving forward. And I'm not sure what the rest of the council majority thinks, but that was kind of the plan going forward, was to correct from this point forward. And my apologies.
No, I hear you entirely, and I understand entirely how getting what was constituted as a committee is the typical sort of thing we would do. But in this case, and I'm only speaking for myself, maybe other councilors had a different need. I wanted to hear, okay, well, I get that these are rules that have been proposed to address issues that are common, but I don't know what the effect on a short-term rental would be from these things. So I'm wondering, can we hear from some of them and have them tell us what those effects would be and how maybe they mitigate any potential negative effects on their own? And so I'm less interested in the information from other sources, although I'm fine to get it. So I hope we maybe even get a stronger voice from short-term rental owners involved in this, if not add a couple of people.
Okay.
Thank you.
We may do that just as a separate, broader outreach to that group.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Syret.
Yeah, so Sarah said, the city manager and I did get to have a conversation about that, and she shared exactly what she shared right here, that she, after that meeting, after the original meeting when the motion was passed, thought that she had understood our intent and made a good faith effort to constitute a committee with that intent in mind. And, I think there was maybe some mistranslation. And she also indicated that she sent us an email kind of telling us what the composition of the committee was going to be, and that none of us raised any objections, which I will admit I probably glanced very quickly through that email and did not have the time to dive into those details. So, I want to give the city manager her purview to do this work, but I will say I don't think it's of the highest priority right now. When we come out of this crisis, we are currently facing a very dire economic situation, and the landscape for short-term rentals may change considerably after this. And so in terms of priority for city work right now, I would suggest it is not a high priority, and our time might be better spent focusing on other things and coming back to this later. Whether or not that needs to be a formal motion, I don't know, but that's just where I'm feeling about it. And I also did have an opportunity to share with one of the members of that ad hoc committee a little bit about the conversation I had with the city manager and what her intentions were in terms of asking staff to think about how those meetings were conducted, the next meetings of the ad hoc committee, and kind of what they focused on going forward. And I agree with Councilor Clark. What I was really hoping was to hear from the variety of short-term rental owners we have, if the city imposes this regulation on us, it will have this impact. If it imposes this, it could have this impact. These things we think make total sense. Here's how we can mitigate these problems, and just kind of have that dialogue. Not so that they're dictating what we end up doing, but so that we have a real understanding of how our potential regulations would have positive or negative impacts.
I just want to say that I think you will need to do a formal motion, because the motion that we're working under right now gave us certain dates to deliver materials back to you, which we probably we're going to struggle to meet that anyway with the delay of all these meetings. So you don't have to do that tonight, but I think that's something I would want to see.
And Councilor Syrett, I can work with you if you want to help. I can work with you based on the last motion and help you come up with a motion.
That sounds like a good plan. And we'll be reconfiguring our agenda anyway, so that it gives us a little clarification on proceeding on that particular item. Okay, any other need for comment on the public forum? If not, let's go on.
It looks like Betty would like to speak.
Oh,
Betty has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing Betty in my screen. Sorry, Betty, go for it. Councilor Taylor.
I find myself agreeing with Councilor Clark again.
I love it when that happens.
For different reasons. I think the committee, I'm concerned about the composition of the committee. I do not think it should include people who have a financial interest in short-term rentals. It should be people who have an interest in the good of the community. And it is urgent, and it's right now they may not be renting, but what happens, people who are financially in trouble, renters who live here, who are long-term residents, can't find places to rent affordably. The short-term rentals have really damaged a lot of communities by taking away places that could have been rented or bought by residents. And I think it's really important that we have people who care about the city, the future of the city, and who are familiar with what's happened in places like Hood River, for example, or some other places in Oregon and places around the world that short-term rentals have caused a lot of harm by taking away the places that residents could have lived in, could have bought or rented. And I do think it's urgent, and the time to take care of it is before it has done more damage than it has. Thank you.
Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, I'm going to play right down the middle here. I was hoping for a balanced report back from a committee, so that was my interpretation of the motion. My suggestion is, why don't we let it play out what the city manager's already set in place, get more information and supplement what we need from the short-term rental owners, and then bring us back a proposal, and we can have that as a starting point to work with, or modify, reject, or accept, and and go from there. I also don't think this is a real high priority. Again, on the bottom of my priority list of things that we would be doing in the near term.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else needing to comment? All right, I think we're clear on moving forward on that issue, and I am now going to move to the first of our public hearings. And this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So an ordinance clarifying the relationship between approved riverfront park permit and the SDR Downtown Riverfront Code and amending section 9.3113155 of the Eugene Code 1971. So those wishing to speak during this public hearing should now raise your virtual hand to join the speaker's queue in one of two ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the blue hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. And while that's going on, I will let the city manager introduce the topic.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's been a little while, so I'm just going to remind everybody what this is about. This code amendment would revise the section of the land use code to resolve a recently discovered potential conflict between two parts of the eWeb Riverfront Ordinance that you adopted last July. That ordinance included changes to the code text and also approved a Goal 5 standards review application to allow specific amenities in the downtown Riverfront Park. One of those amenities is the iconic artist design pavilion to be located at the very end of Fifth Avenue at the edge of the river. However, code text adopted in the same ordinance would arguably prohibit the pavilion at that location. So this proposed ordinance would resolve the conflict to allow for construction of that park feature by specifying in the code that the council's approval of a Goal 5 standards review application constitutes an exception to prohibition on construction in a view corridor. So given the geography of the area, this exception could pertain only to land within the Riverfront Park. And just to let you know, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend this to council to approve.
Okay, so do any counselors need to disclose any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts? I see everybody shaking heads, and I'm assuming Greg is okay on that. All right.
I'm okay, Mayor.
You're okay. Thank you, Greg. Testimony presented must be directed toward the approval criteria or other criteria that the speaker believes to apply to the decision. The failure of anyone to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city council and parties an opportunity to respond will preclude appeal on that issue. At the beginning of your testimony, please give your name and address and state whether you are in support of, neutral, or opposed to the ordinance. You will have 3 minutes to comment. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of the 3 minutes, and I'll now open the public hearing. So
Mayor, I need to say one last thing. Okay, I apologize. I don't know if anyone signed up or not, but I need to clarify one piece that is legally required, which is you can adopt an amendment to land use code only if it is 1, consistent with applicable statewide planning goals, and 2, consistent with applicable provisions of the comprehensive plan and applicable adopted refinement plans. And with that, you can now move to the public hearing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And so this hearing is open, and do we have anyone signed up to speak?
No, we do not.
Okay, well, that was a lot of words. So unless there are any objections, I will close that hearing and knock on wood, open the next.
I think you need to close the record as well, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, close the hearing and I close the public record. Thank you. All right, and now I will open the next public hearing. An ordinance extending the term of ordinance number 19775 and ordinance number 2397, granting to Comcast of Oregon 2, Inc., a franchise for operation of a cable telecommunications system. So, City Manager, do you want to introduce this?
Yeah. I'll do that. So the city's non-exclusive cable franchise with Comcast is a contract that outlines the conditions under which the company operates its cable business, which makes use of the public rights of way for their commercial activities. The ways in which these agreements are created and enforced is governed by city code, federal law, and the Federal Communications Commission rules. The current agreement is due to sunset on June 30th of 2020. In September of 2019, as many of you know, the FCC issued a cable order that directly and adversely impacts critical components of the current franchise. State and local governments around the US, including the city of Eugene, filed an appeal of the order, which is pending in the Sixth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals. Staff and Comcast believe it's advisable to await the outcome of the FCC proceeding to determine the impact, then move forward with our franchise renewal. An 18-month extension of the current franchise is recommended. Comcast is agreeable to that extension. This public hearing is to hear from the public on an ordinance to extend that franchise agreement by 18 months.
Okay, thank you. I now open the public hearing. Those wishing to speak during this public hearing should now raise your virtual hand to join the speaker's queue in one of two ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the blue hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. And while that is going on, I will revisit the rules. When it is your turn to speak, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. You will have 3 minutes to comment. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of the 3 minutes. So do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do not.
We do not. Okay. In that case, are there any questions or comments from council on this? All right. With that, I close that.
Yeah, Mayor, I had a question.
Okay. Go for it.
So the way I understand this is that the Trump administration FERC board is taking a very different interpretation of the rule and allowing Comcast and other big giant corporations to reduce their franchise fees for any in-kind contributions they have, which include cable boxes of government buildings and any public access or government community TV channels like our public access channel, our education channel, government channel, fire training channel, and reduce and deduct those from the franchise fee. Have we done any analysis of the valuation of that so that even in ballpark sense of is how much that's worth? And maybe probably because you can't answer that question, how do you go about doing that? I guess that's what the whole lawsuit's about, I suppose.
Are you asking what the financial impact is to us if we don't get that revenue? I'm a little bit.
Right. If they were able
it's in the millions of dollars.
So they would be able to.
It'll be an ongoing several $1 million. Yeah.
Reduction in franchise fees from Comcast, or we could forego all of these public benefits and not have a reduction.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether Hua or Pam is best to answer that, or Catherine, do you have a sense?
Was on the line and she just raised her hand, so I'm gonna.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So hopefully I'm unmuted now.
You're good.
You are.
Good. Okay. So Pam can jump in if she knows if we've gotten any sort of valuation on the cable boxes. I think that we've gotten some, but from Comcast originally, but were informed by Comcast that the valuation was incorrect, and we have not since then received a new valuation on just the boxes. So that part's not in the millions of dollars. I think it's significantly less than that. So I think Councilor Zelenka was asking about that in-kind portion.
Well, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. So
as well as the public access value of the public access TV
Yeah, and that part is, as far as I know, we haven't received evaluation or done evaluation on that. There's some, I believe, some argument over how that will be valued, who gets to value it. The FCC, I think, they come out with another order about just the channels. So far, it has not. They pulled back on that piece.
Yeah. I may have said FERC because I'm in the energy business, but FCC is who does this.
Yes.
But I wanted to underscore that this is in the millions of dollars. The fact that nobody showed up for a public hearing doesn't mean that this is not an important issue. It's an extremely important issue to the city and to the residents in terms of we will either forego services or reduce someplace else because Comcast is and FCC is doing this.
Pam, did you want to speak?
Well, I can add a couple of things. During the franchise renewal itself, this is just an extension, but during the franchise renewal a few years ago, there was quite a lineup of public testimony about it. And I think the council and the public that showed up saw the breadth of our work. Attachment A is just a little bit about some of the issues that we confront with Comcast. And as for the cable boxes, it's not just the boxes, but the FCC order would allow them to determine the value of the programming given to schools, that's Bethel and 4J, and to any government building in which they give gratis TV programming under our franchise. They get to value that. Let's say it was valued at $100 per TV. They gave us a valuation once that was with no explanation and no backup, and that explanation was almost $200,000 just on the TV programming. The channels, should they down the line, the FCC act to add channels to their franchise fee offset, meaning they get to value the 4 channels we have, then take it out of our franchise fees. I agree, it could be into the millions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Thank you so much. Yep, Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if, and I don't know which staff member to direct this question to, but what's the total amount of the total dollars, the complete amount of revenue that we extract from Comcast a year?
This particular franchise has to do with the cable TV under the Federal Cable Act. And we can get you some figures, and I believe it's over $2 million on right-of-way use fees. That's involved in $2 million a year.
In total amounts that we get from Comcast?
Okay, apart from this franchise, they have other businesses besides this franchise. So they also have a Comcast IP phone business that is not involved in this particular franchise. We'd have to get you the figures on that, happy to. They also have a wireless service in partnership with Verizon.
Right. I was just speaking, forgive me for interrupting you, I apologize. I was just speaking, as Alan brought it up, as Comcast in general. I was just wondering how much we demand from Comcast each year.
Well, it's generally 5% of their gross revenues earned in the city limits of Eugene for their cable TV business under the Cable Act. For their other business using the public right-of-way, it's 7% of their right-of-way use fees under the 1999 ordinance 20083 for their other business activities, and that has not changed for now for a couple of days.
You don't know what the dollar figure is?
I can get you the dollar. It's 2, 3 million perhaps.
Yeah, we can have that. We can give you that in a follow-up memo to get to the specifics. But as we've been planning on this in terms of if they stop paying, we're looking at several $1 million a year.
Mhm.
But we can
Right,
get you the
out
absolute
of what
specifics.
pool of money? That's what I was asking. You don't have even an estimation of how much money we get from Comcast a year?
From the franchise, that's it. Yeah.
Mhm.
That is the total pool. That's the bulk of it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, raised hands that I haven't seen? Okay, good. Thank you very much. And thank you all. This actually works pretty well. Thank you very much, Elena, for shepherding us all the way through this process, which had some challenges and actually went, I think, very smoothly. So thank you all, and we are adjourned.